To go. We'll get back started here so we can keep the agenda going. Next presenter is going to be from the Greater Madison MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Klein Hosley and Alexandros are here tonight, and they're going to get us up to speed on what's going on with MPO. Come on down.
All right, I'm here. Thank you, everyone. To open this, and it's going to magically appear, is my understanding. What's the airport? Where's Forbes?
I'll go get them.
Okay. We pre-set it up. But, well, before, my name is Alexandra Andros. I'm happy to be here. I started in this role on May 1st, and here we are, May 31st. And I had a few handouts at the table. You didn't need to take them, but if you have them there with you, we have a copy of, I really recommend, it's an executive summary from the big transportation plan. So the beauty of the executive summary is that it's a little thing, and it has all the good stuff, recommendations, goals, and then some interesting facts you can look at there. And here he comes. And I'm going to go through these pretty rapidly. Answer your questions. Look at that. Looks pretty good. Okay, so how many of you are familiar with the MPO? Because I know all these planning organizations, oh, excellent, can get a little confusing. They all seem a little bit the same, a little bit different. So I'll try to keep it brief, but basically we are the designated agency to do regional planning. And we do that in a collaborative regional fashion. And our mission and vision are right here for you to see. We bring federal funding into the region, and we will move forward in the presentation. This is our governance structure. So we're governed in a 14-member policy board with representation shown as you see here, and we coordinate with the federal government as well as WISDOT and county and local governments. To ensure development of a coordinated regional system. So if there's ever a time to do regional planning, I mean, transportation is certainly, there's many good reasons to do it, of course, but transportation is definitely one of them. So what are our primary responsibilities? So I really like this slide that's put together. So it's sort of the classic, what do we do, what don't we do? So take a look at this list and maybe let's start with what we don't do. We don't build anything, we don't come out there and fix anything, but what we do is we provide that forum to make that regional planning decision making, and I'm going to read right off the script here. So these include leading or supporting other special plans and studies and approved federal funding for projects through adoption of the Transportation Improvement Program, better known as the TIP. You may have heard of the TIP. Earlier we heard about LRIP. These are familiar acronyms. We love acronyms in transportation, and that's important. That's something we work with WISDOT to deliver projects throughout the county. And we are strictly a planning and funding agency. So again, we don't design and construct projects. Those are those things you'll find on the right. So the long-range transportation planning, and I think I just mentioned before this started up that there's that executive summary that maybe you picked up. It's an important thing that we do. So the Regional Transportation Plan is a framework plan that covers all modes of transportation. It sets guiding policy and identifies future projects, studies, and strategies to be implemented. So, you know, I think, what does it include? And these are good categories to think about. How are we going to grow? So look at trends and forecasts. And what is our transportation system today? And what's that system going to look like in the future? So again, this serves as an official plan for federal and state funding purposes. And when we work on this plan, you know, we can come up with lots of great ideas are in there, but it is a fiscally constrained plan. So the projects that go in and go forward are ones that we have to think about how exactly are we going to fund those in the future. So wish list is great, it's a good exercise, but we also have to plan for the funding as well to help implement those ideas. So Connect Greater Madison 2050. We completed this, we do this once every 5 years, and the most recent one was adopted just earlier this year, and the plan identifies needed transportation system improvements to accommodate current travel demands and future growth, while setting investment priorities balancing limited funds. So again, it is funding dependent. It includes strategies to address important trends such as rapidly evolving transportation technology. I think we all are seeing more of that almost every day. And other things going on, for instance, telework. People switching to a virtual workplace has already made a difference and will continue to do so. And other critical issues such as climate change. So in this case, we're going to talk about transportation funding, and I'm going to turn it over to Colleen.
All right, as Alex mentioned earlier, one of the core documents that we update, and this is annual, is our Transportation Improvement Program. And so within our planning area, the map that we showed at the beginning of the presentation, any project on a collector or arterial roadway that receives federal funding must be included in this annual Transportation Improvement Program. And so it's a 5-year program. If you want to see what's going on, what's going to be coming up in the next 5 years, we do have on our website an interactive map, so you can see what's going on in your community, but also what's going on around the region. And as Alex was talking about the long-range plan, one of the requirements to be able to get federal transportation funding is first, if it's a regionally significant improvement. One of the most recent ones that we had to amend into our plan was the Beltline Flex Lane. It has to be included in the long-range plan, and then it can be included in the Transportation Improvement Program. The stuff that everyone gets excited about is what kind of funding can we offer your community. So the MPO gets formula funding, sub-allocated funds for 4 different programs. Our biggest one, and that most people are most familiar with, is the Surface Transportation Block Grant. It's flexible multimodal funding as a result of the most recent infrastructure bill. We get a little over $9 million annually with an application process every 2 years. That application process is open right now, and we'll be making project selections mid-summer for that. And you can see up here some of the examples of different projects that we have funded throughout the region. And this map as well shows you, again, these are really very important regionally significant projects that we are able to bring that federal funding in for. Our next program is the Transportation Alternatives Program, or you'll probably hear it called TAP, because, again, those acronyms. And so this is dedicated for bike and pedestrian projects. We get around $1.2 million annually. We just selected projects earlier this year. So past projects have been Safe Routes to School projects, the Glacial Drumlin Trail Connector, Lower Yahara River Trail, and we have funded like DeForest area school improvements through this program. Our newest funding program is the Carbon Reduction Program. We just selected projects for this at our last board meeting. And these are for projects that reduce transportation-related emissions. For this funding period, the state legislature put some restrictions on what kind of projects were eligible. So we selected projects for Sun Prairie, Middleton, Madison, and Fitchburg to upgrade their street lighting to energy-efficient LED lighting. We get, this year we had about $1.1 million, and we will be having another application period likely at the end of this year for this program. And then finally, we also administer the Federal Transit Administration's Section 5310 program. And this is for, provides funding for projects that improve mobility for seniors and people with disabilities. Projects we have funded are illustrated here, including the County Transportation Call Center, new vehicles for shared ride taxi systems, and vehicles for nonprofit organizations serving this clientele.
So, any questions about those funding programs? Because funding is important, I know. Okay, if you think of one, you can ask later too. So, The other thing we do is transportation planning and community assistance. And that's something I just really want to stress. We are a resource. We have a lot of data, we have a lot of information and skills that we can share. So here's the list of items. So data and mapping. That is a really popular thing. We do get requests for that. And so I just asked about, ask staff to give you a few examples of some of the things that we've done to give you an idea. So since I know Monona's here, mentioned Monona. So an example there was an elected official was hearing from her constituents that I think there's pass-through traffic, like sort of cutting through the neighborhoods to avoid Monona Drive to get over to Broadway. Could you look into that? And so she contacted us, and that was something that we could use our traffic modeling and the data that we have to determine whether or not that seemed to be the case. And it didn't seem to be the case, but that's an example of something that was helpful for local government in that case. Another example is the city of Middleton. They were looking at whether or not they needed to expand capacity on a road due to a new development that had been planned. And again, we did some forecasting and modeling and saw that, well, actually you don't need to expand it as much as maybe they were thinking they might have to. So that saved Middleton some, needless to say, some invested time and money for that project. Some example for special studies, the village of Marshall worked actually with CARPC, that'll be up next. That's a regional planning sort of partner agency in doing their comprehensive plan. And their consultant, they worked with a consultant as well as CARPC staff, and when it came to the transportation element of that plan, they turned to the MPO staff. So we really provided a lot of planning and assistance for that plan. So that's a good example of what we consider a special project. Another thing in transit and active transportation planning, that's something that more communities are interested in looking into. And we recently had the Village of Oregon had a committee that was interested in sort of starting a transit program in their community and reached out to our transit planner, Ben Lyman, to see, hey, we want to do a survey, how do we go about that? And that's really, started that effort off, and now we're going to continue to provide assistance in that. And then anything else, we also provided employers with employee transportation. So another one of the flyers you might have received is called Round Trip, and that is our rideshare program, and that's something that more employers are interested in because their employees or potential employees are interested in alternatives to just automobile-only transportation for work, as well as other things. And then anything by request. You can always, it doesn't hurt to ask, certainly, if there's something that comes up. And we'll see what we can do. Current planning initiatives and projects. So right now we're working on 3 bigger projects. One that's really, I think is really an exciting one is our Regional Safety Action Plan. Safety certainly, I think everyone agrees, is important to all our communities. And for that project, we're working on a regional development plan, and we're hiring a consultant that's going to be assisting us with that. And we're already, in fact, working with the UW TOPS Lab, and remind me, is that Transportation Traffic Operations Lab, who's a really great partnership. And we're working with them and a consultant, and also partners such as the Dane County Traffic Safety Commission. Following the completion of this plan, we'll work with the consultant to prepare a regional safety project implementation grant application. And that would be something communities are interested in participating in that. There will be funding opportunities as well to achieve safety goals. We're also working on a regional EV strategic plan. So EV is electric vehicles, charging stations, something that really holds a lot of consumers back, certainly is concerned about, are there any gaps in which I'll find myself without the ability to charge my vehicle? And that is something that we're working on as well. So that's an important program. Some additional activities, there's a transit development plan that is underway this year. We are going to be, and I'm working on this, hiring a new communications and outreach specialist, especially with that rideshare program and so many things that it would be ideal to have a better outreach and more resources. And quicker action for people to reach us. Regional resiliency plan, the round trip TDM program update, again, that's our rideshare program. Local technical assistance program, I think this may be something especially of interest to you all here, as well as regional arterial system management plan. Yes?
Do you know if so the sheriff had indicated that he had gas in the vehicle if somebody ran out of gas. Do you know if his vehicle could charge an electric vehicle if it gets stalled on the...
If he had a gas vehicle?
Well, no,
If it's an electric.
If it was an EV vehicle?
Yes.
Well, that's the idea.
I know that, I don't know if they currently have that technology, but that is something that they know is going to be a very important thing.
Yeah,
And
the
I think
super
it's
rapid
been planned
charge.
for if they don't currently have it.
Or like tow trucks, and then they would have to tow the vehicle.
Yeah, right. Well, the planner is working on this. I got in a conversation with him, and he knows all the different technology of all the different EV technologies. It's kind of has been, because there are different requirements and how fast and what type of vehicle, and yeah, it's building that stuff out. So yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. They can drive over to the landfill and get a compressed natural gas, and then if they run out of that, they can go charge it. Any others for this slide? So the TDM round trip program. So this is, so I trying this out myself, you know, I actually signed up before I started this job. It is just a great thing. It is possible to have alternatives and make it really easy to use. So what it does, there's a ride matching platform. So there's a number of ways that you can try to travel. I bike, I bus, I drive, but a lot of people ride share, or maybe I ride my bike twice a week. Maybe I ride my bike to, you know, there's a number of ways and linkages that people can travel that has increased over time. And this program does a really nice job. One of the benefits is that emergency ride home program. So Dane County gives us additional funding, and that's an assurance that if you sign up and you participate in this program, if you find yourself in a situation, an emergency where you just need to get a ride somewhere for whatever reason, you need to go to the doctor, you have to pick your kid up at school because the principal just called, whatever, you get that emergency ride home, and that gives people a comfortable feeling, and they do utilize that. And we also provide technical assistance for agencies and employers. So I just want to point out, either as a community or if you have an employer in your community that might be interested, we'll come out, set up a table, can sign people up, teach them about the program. And that is something employers tell us, and we've seen as part of our recent plan update, that younger people actually want a variety of modes of transportation. So this is something that employers are seeing as a benefit that they can offer and something that they can address. So how are we funded? Funding, again, is a good question. So well, it's right there in front of you. 84% of our funding comes from federal and state planning funds, and the rest comes in the form of a local match. And there's a note there underneath. So the City of Madison is responsible for staffing and local match. Other units of government are strongly encouraged to provide match as well. And many of our communities do, but many of them don't. And how that works is we're encouraging people to make a proportionate contribution based on their proportionate share of the population within the MPO planning area. I sort of maybe flew too quickly past that slide, but the planning area isn't quite the entire county at this point. It's a great deal of it, and will continue to grow as our population grows. But that's how that works. So. I worked at the county for many, many years, so I see the county. Now I need to start seeing a different shape within that county. So that is the end of our show, but we are happy to answer any questions you may have. Yes?
Does that figure correct? 1.39 million is your total budget, and you're able to provide all these services for that?
Yes.
Where's
So-
the cake?
So, you know, the funding and the transportation funding, that's separate than this 1.3, that's sub-allocated funding for like the SG programs, the 9 million, but this is what our.
Oh, yeah, that's not,
This
yeah,
is
this is for running our
operating
agency.
budget.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Right. Good question.
Other questions?
Thank you guys so
All
much.
right, you're welcome. I'll just show it. Yeah.
Capital Area Regional Planning. Steve Steinoff is here to enlighten us on what's going on in the planning world. I guess that's what this is only was, planning and sequence. Steve?
Well, yes, good evening, everyone. Thanks for sticking around to round two and this cohort here. And thanks for being here. Thank you to DCCVA and DCTA for hosting it. My name is Steve Steinhoff. Oh, I'm supposed to press start. Bob told me I had 10 minutes. I'm the agency director for the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission. Also, as you've heard we refer to ourselves as CARPC. We are one of 9 RPCs in the state. We're the only single county RPC. Maybe one day we will, the 5 counties around us that aren't part of any RPC will merge and join with CARPC as well. Regional planning commissions are established when local units of governments, cities, villages, towns, counties petition the state to establish an RPC. And why do they do that? Generally because they face challenges that go beyond their municipal boundaries. Also, they want to be an entity that can perhaps bring in some additional federal and state resources and provide direct assistance to the units of government. CARPC's mission, our vision reflects that overall purpose, which is a region where communities create exceptional quality of life for all by working together to solve regional challenges. That purpose is also reflected in the executive order that Governor Doyle signed in 2007 to establish CARPC, which is, a phrase from it is, local governments need to work together to meet the challenges that transcend municipal boundaries, and went on to cite some of those challenges specific to our region, which are effectively protect the natural resources and beauty of the capital area, as well as promote economic growth and sound land development practices. So some of the basics about CARPC: we are governed by a 13-member commission. It is appointed by Dane County Cities and Villages Association, the Towns Association, the Dane County Executive, and the Mayor of Madison. We have 9 full-time staff, a budget of about $1.4 million. 2/3 of that is funded by a property tax levy, and the rest through a combination of grants, fees, and services, revenue that we get for services. So, like the NPO, we have our list of what we do and don't do. We promote collaborative and intergovernmental land use and environmental plans and planning. We develop a long-range regional development framework. We administer the regional water quality management planning program for Wisconsin DNR, conduct watershed level planning, future urban development planning, and we provide direct assistance like the NPO through data planning and other types of planning services, like they mentioned the joint project we did with the Village of Marshall, updating their comprehensive plan. We do not regulate land use. We are not a regulatory agency. We don't, in the same way, we don't establish ordinance and permits. We focus mostly on land use, development, and environmental and water quality planning, but we do work closely with other agencies to coordinate with other types of regional plans, transportation being a key one. We think of the MPO as our partner agency. Transportation and land use really go together, and the regional transportation plan and the regional development framework were developed concurrently and are rely on each other for the same, for example, population forecasts, the same regional growth modeling, and many of the goals, in fact, are overlapping. So the state of statutes for regional planning commissions charge RPCs with the function and duty of preparing and adopting a master plan for the physical development of the region. So CARPC undertook that challenge a number of years ago, starting with a regional visioning process. It's called the Greater Madison Vision, brought together leaders, the 50-member stakeholder group, and steering committee, and engaged stakeholders in the public, culminating in a region-wide survey where more than 9,000 people completed it, exploring alternative growth scenarios, registering what they identified as their key priorities for growth and development in the region. Out of that came some key priorities for the region that then CARPC translated into goals for the physical development of the region as per that state statute. And the three overarching goals that came out of that process that we applied to physical development are to promote development that, one, reduces greenhouse gas emissions and fosters community resilience to climate change, two, that increases access to jobs, housing, and services for all people, and three, that conserves farmland, water resources, natural resources, and fiscal resources. So climate resilience, access to opportunity, and conservation were the three overall themes. The regional development framework includes more specific objectives and even more specific strategies for how to go about achieving those goals and objectives. So since we're not a regulatory agency, we promote implementation of the framework through education, resources, facilitation, planning. We work with communities during the comprehensive plan update process to encourage consistency between the comprehensive plans and the framework so that the comprehensive plans then become the implementing vehicle that local units of government can do to promote the objectives of the regional development framework. We are embarking on a project right now to assess local zoning codes for consistency with the regional development framework. So it's a joint project. We're hiring a project intern from UW-Madison who will will be doing a lot of that work. There are 6 communities that have contributed financially to that. So we'll be working with communities throughout the region to identify opportunities for revisions to zoning codes that can make them better designed and more consistent with the strategies and objectives of the regional development framework. We'd be happy to talk with you more about that. Another initiative that's coming out of the regional development framework is that we're working with Dane County Office of Energy and Climate Change to pursue a regional Soul Smart designation. So it's a program funded by the U.S. Department of Energy that awards designations of bronze, silver, gold, platinum for how solar ready, how friendly and open the processes are in a community for applying for installing solar photovoltaic PV systems. And one of our main purposes of pursuing this regional designation is to help local communities, if you're interested, pursue also a Soul Smart designation. The whole goal is to increase the amount of solar energy, make it easier to do and increase the amount of solar energy in the region. So we also, as part of you mentioned the climate resilience and goal of the regional development framework, we're implementing that in a couple other ways as well. We're pursuing regional flood resilience planning, watershed level planning. For example, Black Earth Creek watershed, we worked with communities there, the villages of Black Earth, Cross Plains and Mazo Maney, and the towns of Black Earth, Mazo Maney, and Barry, and others to get funding through Wisconsin Emergency Management and a FEMA hazard mitigation plan to develop a green infrastructure watershed plan to increase the amount of rainfall and precipitation that's being soaked into the ground instead of running off into the streams and rivers, reducing the flood risk there. And that plan is completed, and now we're working with communities to seek funding to implement some of the priority projects that came out of that. Similar, also watershed level planning for, just received, working with communities in the Lake Wabisa area to receive a grant from DNR to do watershed level planning there. We also developed a watershed plan for Starkweather Creek in the city of Madison, focusing on chloride reduction. Another focus area is increasing the tree canopy. It's another aspect of climate resilience. And we, through some of our mapping work, helped spur, along with Dane County, the creation of the Dane County Tree Collaborative, intergovernmental agency developing goals and programs to increase, and assistance to increase tree canopy coverage. I mentioned that we administer the Water Quality Management Planning Program. That's a mouthful for DNR. That's the program that you may actually have encountered CARPC more frequently, because if you're a city or village and you have a sewer service area, urban service area, the area to which public sewer can be extended under the Federal Clean Water Act, it's administered through DNR, and they contract with us. So if you need to revise those boundaries to extend the sewer line, applications come to CARPC. We work with communities and applicants to ensure that the plans are done in such a way that the water quality standards are met, so we can make good recommendations to DNR. And we also promote and encourage communities where it's relevant to go beyond those minimum water quality standards to preserve extra areas for environmental protection. And I'm over my 10 minutes, if you're keeping track. So I'll end with that. And our website is capitalarearbc.org. And thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Steve? Thank you.
Just a little overrun, that's all. Well, we talk about all this planning and stuff gets built, and then we come to Madison Metropolitan Sewage District. They're on the end of the line, Michael, right? Michael Walker, Metropolitan Sewage District, MMSD.
Do I have 3 minutes?
10 minutes.
Are you sure? Okay.
Where's it necessary?
Whatever okay, well, great.
Within reason.
I'm really pleased to be here. First of all, it was really great to hear all the other speakers before me, to hear all the great services and how there's so many places to coordinate and collaborate. And so I'll just give a little bit of why you should care about the sewage district. Once we were formed in 1929 because in Madison, Wisconsin, raw sewage was discharging to our lakes, Lake Mendota, Lake Monona. And that was supposed to be our future drinking water source. So the county at the time thought it probably wasn't a good idea to have our wastewater going in the same place where our drinking water is going to be. Judge Kroenke held a public hearing. 2,000 people showed up, many of them against setting up a regional sewage district. The judge decided that it was in the best interest of the public to do so. A week later, he appointed a 3-member commission, and then the week after that, they had their first meeting. So is that efficient government or what? Set a regional utility up, appoint a commission, and have their first meeting in 3 weeks. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. But of course, the Clean Water Act came and set water quality standards, and then Wisconsin Statute 200 created and formally formed us as a sewage district, even though we were there 40 or 50 years here in Madison before regional sewage districts were allowed. And that regulates everything. Our mission is protecting public health and the environment. That's our mission. We receive 40 million gallons of wastewater a day from almost all of Dane County, 25 communities throughout Dane County. Any idea what 40 million gallons of water looks like a day? It's the equivalent of filling up Camp Randall Stadium halfway every day. And it's the equivalent of creating a Lake Mendota every year. That's how much water that we treat. And we turn it into 5 products, renewable products. Clean water, of course. Renewable energy, we power our treatment plant with the methane gas we capture. And then 3 biological products that go back to farm fields for crop production. A liquid product, a fertilizer, and an organic compost material that's used. Our budget, and this is where you should really care in your communities, is based on service charges, and you get a fairly large bill from the sewage district every quarter. And that is based on your flows and loading. So it's a user charge. You pay for what you give us, the strength of your waste, and also the volume of the waste. And we also receive revenues, some revenues through connection charges. Every new development you have in your community, your developer in the end pays for the availability of us to have capacity in our sewers to accommodate waste from new developments. It's almost like an impact fee in some ways, and it's based on square footage. Because some of the interceptors we've built for capacity in Todd and Wanakee now, those are interceptors we've been built 30, 40 years ago. And we upfronted those costs. There's 2 things, I guess what I'll leave you with is where I need your help. We are really challenged with affordability. Aren't we all in our community? And we have an affordability dichotomy going on right now. One, we have aging infrastructure. We have to replace infrastructure that was built with federal grants over the last 80 years. And that's coming to term. Our capital program just in the next 6 years is $300 million to replace aging infrastructure. It's also to deal with new regulations and to accommodate growth through Steve has said, the regional master plan. And so we have to have rates high enough to afford that critical infrastructure. At the same time, there are people in our community that can't afford the rates where they are right now. They decide, do I put food on the table, or do I pay my bill, my utility bill? Since we're a wholesale provider, like the City of Madison is our provider, our customer is the City of Madison, it's Wanakee, it's Verona, it's Fitchburg. We do not have a direct relationship with households. So where we need help is in communities developing affordability programs and creating that social safety net in your communities for those who can't afford, or economically cannot afford the rates. The City of Madison just did something groundbreaking last year, and they were able to get approved through the Public Service Commission, the MADCAT program. So they are able to use rate dollars to subsidize low-income people. It's groundbreaking in this state, it's done in other states, but all of your communities could do something like that, not just to help with your water bills, but other utility bills and other impacts that your community has. That's the other thing. The other thing is, and the second thing I really need your help is in pollution prevention. When we start talking about PFAS, chloride, pharmaceuticals, these things we can remove from the water, and it's very expensive. Once pollution reaches the water, it's extremely expensive to remove. And I'll use pharmaceuticals, for example. We're not regulated for pharmaceuticals, but we all know that pharmaceuticals come through our system, they go into our water bodies, they accumulate in the environment, and they're impacting fish, and eventually humans. We tested our wastewater, and the 3 top compounds that were coming to us are medications related to high blood pressure, stress, and anxiety. So do we really think a bigger treatment plant is a solution to that problem? So my vision has been, since I've been at the sewage district for the last 11 years, is we are in the public health business. And we need, when I hear Dane County Public Health, who is in this room, we need to be partnering with Dane County Public Health on how we work upstream on solutions on public health and wellness. Because when you deal with public health and wellness, you're actually improving water quality. We don't realize that. Improving water quality. PFAS is another one. The types of products we consume come to the wastewater plant. We have, what I call base levels of PFAS. We've tested our influent, we've tested our effluent, we've tested our biosolids, and they're at environmental levels. You probably have more PFAS in your blood than you do have in wastewater, and that comes from the products we use in our house, the clothing we have, the fire retardant furniture, popcorn, skillets that are non-stick, all of those things. And so we're trying to work upstream again on PFAS to reduce PFAS at the source. So those are the 2 things. Think about weight before you flush. Never put a flushable wipe in your toilet because they're designed to be really strong when they're wet. Where toilet paper, when it gets wet, it immediately disperses. When you come to the wastewater plant, if you ever come to a tour, I'll give you a tour, there's no toilet paper. It dissolves. But wipes stick together with everything else and become with grease and create big blobs and disrupt the sewer system. So I have 56 seconds left, and I'm at my 10 minutes, but I can use those to take questions. Go ahead.
Do you have a list of who in the community or addresses that need help? Because I wonder how big of a concern it is for my community as opposed to other communities and how big of an issue it is.
With the affordability?
Yes.
Have you read the race equity report that was
A while ago, yeah.
It's a long report, but in that there's a lot of data in that report about what parts of Dane County are the areas that have the biggest challenges. And I don't know if I think they update that report, but I don't know if anyone else, maybe others know who are in more of the social services part of it. There's probably areas of the county that probably could answer those questions better than I could.
So you don't know specific addresses?
No, that's my 10 minutes.
You're fine.
Okay. Thank you.
How does Madison figure out to get discount on their utility costs?
It's through the income, the average income per year, the household income. That's how they make that basis, and they have an application process.
Other questions?
Right, thanks.
Thank you, Mark.
A couple of years ago now, I guess, a broadband task force or commission was formed, and Representative Radcliffe was one of the people on that commission. Jeffrey Glazer, Jeffrey's here, and they're going to get us up to speed on how good our connectivity is these days. Mine's pretty good.
Yeah.
They finally got there after 3 years.
You don't have to rub it in, Some of us don't all have the good services. Are you coming to help me, Forbes?
I am.
Because while I am the chair of the broadband task force, I'm not great at it.
It's not a technology task
That's right,
force.
I'm not.
Luckily, they don't make you install broadband into the task
Yes,
force.
you do not want me installing your broadband. Would be a long time coming. So while he's getting that set up, I am Melissa Ratcliffe. I'm a Dane County Board Supervisor of District 36, which is the Cottage Grove Village and Town and a portion of the town of Sun Prairie. and also a little bit of the east side of Madison. My district got changed a little bit during redistricting. Before that, when this task force was formed, I had 2 towns, the town of Pleasant Springs and the town of Cottage Grove and the village of Cottage Grove. So broadband access was a little bit more of a concern for my district at that time. But as we've learned on the task force, it's a concern in a lot of little pockets throughout our county. And how the task force was formed, how do you move it forward?
Forward.
Okay, there, yay. All right, so we formed, I worked with Kate McGinnity, who's a supervisor of District 37, which has like 11 towns or something. Her area is huge and a lot of towns, and that was a big concern that she heard when knocking doors. She got elected in 2020 and we started working on broadband, this big beast of broadband. And we were delving into all these different areas and understood that it impacted so many different facets of our community, from healthcare to mental health services to schooling to employment, recreation, entertainment, all sorts of things. And we got to the point where we were going to have to start learning about schools and healthcare, and we're like, why don't we form a task force instead and bring in members from our community that understood those areas better, so that we could work to improve broadband access in Dane County. And as we, I don't know if you're aware, but the maps for the PSC are not accurate, and so it looked like Dane County had great access to broadband, which we knew it didn't because we talked to the people and they're like, I don't have access to the internet. I can see the Capitol from my house, but I can't get on the internet. So what the task force was basically created to do is to look at our access in Dane County and make the maps better. So we were able to have the unanimous support of the county board to form the task force. And in 2021, we learned that it's not nice to have, it's definitely a need. COVID showed us that broadband access is a need in order for community members, all residents, to be able to participate in living in our society now. We have members from all different parts of the communities. We have internet service provider, someone from healthcare, we have a representative from Dane County Cities and Villages, Bob Whipperfirth. We have a representative from Dane County Towns Association, Renee Lauber, who is here. She was here. We have broadband task force meeting in the morning too, bright and early at 8:30. So she probably went home to get some Z's. Jeff Glazer is our vice chair now. He was elected in 2022?
Yes.
Yes, okay. It's 2023 now. Dina Zentner is a representative from the community. She was on the town, she was the town president in Dunn? Chair. Thank you, Rutland.
Yes.
Thank you. And then we have a senior center representative, a couple of supervisors, a school representative, and a community group representative, and an agricultural representative. So we got all sorts of different members involved because we knew that it was important to hear from all those different voices what their needs were in their community, or their groups, their people that they dealt with. So I will let Jeff Glazer come and introduce himself and go through what we've accomplished these past 2 years. That has been like a crash course of broadband for our task force, that we've done amazing things to get us to the point where we're at now. And I'll just note too, we did a couple of public hearings to hear from community members about the issues that they were having, that really helped the task force to form our recommendations that we were then able to put forward the plan moving forward to help Dane County and our residents get access to broadband that we might not have otherwise. I would say that we wouldn't have otherwise, but we might have, but not as fast. So, Jeff.
Thanks, Liz. My name is Jeff Glazer. I'm a Dane County Supervisor in District 8 in the city of Madison. So I'm on the west side of Madison. If you go, everybody knows where Vi-10's golf land is because we all love playing mini golf. So if you start at Vi-10's and walk all the way through the Elver Park, you will have traversed the diagonal of my district. So west side of Madison, and one of the problems that we have in my district related to broadband is less about sort of the accessibility piece and more about the affordability piece, right? The city of Madison has pretty good coverage, but it's not coverage that's affordable. And so one of the big parts, one of the big things that the task force is embarking on in this year and coming forward is trying to tackle that affordability piece. So you'll see here as we get into the accomplishments that some of this is going to be directed not just at accessibility, do people have access to broadband internet, but can people afford broadband internet? And there's a third leg to this stool that we're not going to talk about today, and that's the usability piece, right? And this is making sure that people know how to use the devices to get them onto the internet. This is largely targeted at senior populations and other folks who may be tech averse.
Like me, tech averse.
And so these are definitely a large number of programs. I think our libraries are all doing a fantastic job. And there are other places that are starting to do programming around usability. So we're going to talk a little bit more about accomplishments. And it's not surprising, given Melissa's background here, or the background of the task force that was relayed by Melissa, where we started in one of the first accomplishments of the task force was to do a survey of the county and figure out what actually, right? Because the PSC maps, the FCC maps, you could look at them and it looked like we had good to decent to very good coverage throughout Dane County, but again, sort of objective truth that people on the ground sort of knew differently. So when we embarked on the survey, we found out we started seeing really what internet looked like at a granular level. We partnered with MadRep to help do that survey of speed testing, and we got a pretty good sense of what speeds look like throughout Dane County. So based on that, the first part of the task force developed some recommendations as to how the county can support a comprehensive broadband infrastructure, and this resulted in two more accomplishments for the task force. The first was to hire a consulting firm. This firm is AECom. They have spent the last year, 12 months or so, roughly-ish.
Something like that.
Something like that.
That works.
Working in Dane County to talk to residents, talk to service providers, talk to some of you may have talked to our folks, to look at really what the infrastructure and speeds of Dane County look like, and to use their expertise to help us really understand where the problems are, where the infrastructure, where the high capacity infrastructure starts and stops, where are places where if we spend a little bit of money we can get a big bang for our buck, where are the places that are going to be really expensive to serve. Right, this is all a study to really help us understand how we can prioritize deployment of broadband throughout the community. AECom has done a fantastic job with that. Tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m., AECom is preparing the report, or is presenting the report. So for those of you who would like a report with your breakfast, you can tune in and watch that, or join us at the City County building. Another major accomplishment was was that we approved a broadband coordinator position. This job description was just released yesterday. So if you know anybody that's interested in being the Dane County Broadband Coordinator, please have them apply. This role will help all of you to coordinate at the county level and understand sort of, and help us to set help set priorities and help to team together and work collaboratively throughout the county to help find funding, to help find infrastructure, to help find the right partners and the right people. So this person's going to be a key piece in helping everybody sort of coordinate and work together for what limited amount of funding that is going to be available for broadband deployment, and working together on best practices, on affordability and usability. So finally, we get to the money part of the equation. There is a lot, what sounds like a lot of money that's been proposed, that's being floated around. You hear numbers with B's attached to them at the federal level. Realistically, once you start getting down to the real impact of that money, the impressiveness of the numbers starts kind of dissipating very, very quickly. But one of the big programs that has a lot of money attached to it is this Broadband Equity Access and Deployment grant. And in order to get that grant, we have to go through a planning period, and that planning period is really to develop a 5-year action plan for broadband deployment and implementation. So if we want to get this FCC BEAD money, we have to present to the FCC a plan for how we are going to prioritize, and deploy broadband in our county, how much money we think we need for that, and how we're going to collaborate with ISPs to make that happen. So we have received a planning grant to make that happen. That's going to let us keep AECOM on for a little bit longer in order to help us write that grant. So as you get interested in helping to participate in that process, please reach out. And then finally, we applied for and obtained grant funding to raise awareness about the FCC's Affordable Connectivity Program. And if you don't know about this program, we were talking about it a little bit before, it's not going to give anybody free internet service, but it will help reduce costs for those that qualify. There are a number of qualifying criteria. Some of it's based on income, some of it's based on status. So senior citizens, veterans, those that meet poverty thresholds, and there are a few other criteria as well. Can get significant discounts on their on broadband service, and they can get up to $100 towards the cost of a computer or tablet for qualifying households. So it's